Chicago is bleeding out while its leaders play politics with people's lives. The city is down 1,600 police officers. 223 emergency calls went completely unanswered last year. Think about that. You call for help and nobody comes. Murders, carjackings, and chaos rule the streets while Mayor Brandon Johnson pushes delusional theories that housing, not cops, will stop the violence. Meanwhile, actual Chicago residents are begging for President Trump's help. They're all calling for the National Guard. They want what D.C. just got, federal intervention that actually works. The disconnect between Chicago's woke leadership and desperate citizens has never been more stark. So keep on watching. Now, Chicago's collapse proves what happens when leaders abandon law and order. Just like the city needs real solutions, your body needs real relief from joint pain. You're getting older, I'm getting older, it's unavoidable. Until science figures out how we age in reverse, there's something we all face. It's called joint pain. You've probably tried supplements promising miracles, but most don't work. There's one thing that has stood the test of time. I'm talking about turmeric. But standard turmeric barely gets absorbed by your body, and Dr. Josh Levitt developed Golden Revive Plus using BCM 95 curcumin, which absorbs 200 times better combined with boswellia, magnesium, and bromelain. It's a complete joint restoration system. Visit goldenrevive.com/NNN to learn more and to start moving pain-free again, like hopefully the citizens of Chicago will. Now, we played this yesterday. Morning Joe asking Brandon Johnson if 5,000 more cops would help with the violence in Chicago. Johnson wouldn't agree. He says we need more affordable housing. Megyn Kelly even bringing it up on her show.
The Chicago mayor, Brandon Johnson, who's a ridiculous person whose approval rating, you have more toes than he has approval ratings.
Don't know that.
And numbers in his approval rating. And here, watch this. Look at this.
Would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want. Would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs?
Here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know police officers
would be safer. Look,
okay,
I'm not saying that
I was
we
hoping to see if Megyn Kelly would react to that, but no, we played that yesterday for you. An embarrassment. Brandon Johnson is a total embarrassment to Chicago. Chicago flips red, posting 5 hours ago. Chicago's fed up. Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor J.B. Pritzker keep blocking every real solution while our neighborhoods bleed. They'd rather play politics than protect the people. Chicago flips red. Danielle Carter-Walters rips them apart and backs President Trump's call to send in the National Guard because Chicagoans deserve safety and not excuses. Let's listen to this.
Now for more, Chicago resident Danielle Carter-Walters. Danielle, what do you think? I mean, you see what the president's doing in Washington, D.C. Would you like that to come to Chicago? And why would anybody be opposed to cleaning up the city?
Yes, we're tired of seeing our kids and our family members dying in the streets. We're tired of going to funerals and looking over our family members' coffins. At what point are we going to say enough is enough? Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker, they have no solutions. Let me be clear. Yes, they do. The solution is policies that are soft on crime, like the SAFE-T Act and the no cash bail. We're saying no more. We are welcoming President Trump. We asked him to come here. We advocated. Chicago Flips Red advocated for him to come here. And we finally have a president that's listening to the citizens and the people of America. So Brandon Johnson and Pritzker, they're evil. Anybody who wants to stop someone from coming in to stop the murdering and the killing. Anybody who wants to get in the way of that, they're evil, and that's it.
Yeah, I just heard your governor. It was unbelievable. He said, oh, it's about something else. No, it's not. Donald Trump cares about people's lives and about crime. Now for more, Chicago.
Yeah, they'll make as many excuses as they can to deflect from their own failures. Speaking of failures, here is Brandon Johnson at the microphone.
World without, we cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that. And we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down. We cannot return to the same failed strategies that got us here in the first place. Under the previous presidential administration, we requested more federal resources to address gun violence in our city. We continue to make that same call. We have made significant progress on our own, but there is so much more that we can do if we had real support from the federal government.
You know, as I'm watching this, I'm reminded of Zoolander, if you haven't seen the film. There's a school, it's called the Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good and want to learn to do other stuff good too. That's the first thing that came on my mind when I saw Brandon Johnson. Definitely a graduate of the Zoolander School. Let's see. Here's a black conservative eviscerating the woke Mayor Brandon Johnson and woke Governor Pritzker.
But not in the South, of course. Now you have Chicago politicians bragging, talking about, no, the crime is down. The crime is down. Maybe by fucking Whole Foods where you shop. But not in the south side of Chicago, where people are still ducking and dodging bullets and can't even check their goddamn mail. This is what I was saying 2 weeks ago when I said these democratic cities invest in crime. And every liberal in my comment section was like, you said the wrong word. You said the method. You said the method. You said the method. It's not a method. They're investing in crime. There's no progress. They want the crime to fucking continue. That's obvious. Talking about you're investing positively in the communities. You're investing in fucking excuses. You have communities like West Side where there's people who are purposely going out asking for help. Trump said the other day, there's a beautiful African-American woman coming to me, asking me like, hey, can you please come help us in Chicago? We need help. Crime is at an all-time high. Please help us. Governor's like, oh no, we're okay. The mayor's like, don't send help. How dare you? We don't need no help. Let the crime continue. Let the crime continue. The gaslighting is at an all-time high. You are willing to put your community at risk because you hate Trump that fucking bad. No, what's going to happen is he's going to call out your fucking mismanagement. He's going to call out your fucking bullshit. He's going to call out your corruption. That's what he's doing. These democratic cities think this is some type of game. Every time a criminal is in jail, they're like, oh, you're fucking racist. Every time the National Guard comes in to fucking sweep their shit up, oh, that's illegal. Yet and still, you got the community out here, please help us. We need help. We want to live. We're tired of dodging fucking bullets. Trying to bamboozle the public. We know the truth. The communities are speaking for themselves. We couldn't care less what's on the goddamn paper. You democratic cities are trash, and you continuously invest in fucking crime.
Oh, yeah, baby. Damn, I want to meet her. She knows her stuff. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson doesn't want Chicago to have more police officers. He opposes having lower crime for his city. My latest Fox News appearance on Ingram Angle. This is Stacy Washington.
Suffer from, I know you're based near St. Louis, which also has had its own crime problems over the years. You were just in D.C. Help us understand what is racist about helping people across urban America, and mostly who suffer from high crime are minorities. How is that racist?
You know, I couldn't see the racism when I was in the Uber speeding into D.C. for Media Row for the radio program. And Laura, I saw National Guardsmen just standing around kind of nonchalantly leaning up against our beautiful buildings in D.C., talking to Black Americans in the city, just yucking it up and having a good time talking while they were keeping the city safe. The city looks scrubbed. It looks like someone went through, like an interior designer, and cleaned everything up and put everybody in cute clothes. People are walking, they're bike riding, they're on their scooters. They look fantastic. I saw people smiling, Laura. I go to DC 15 to 20 times a year during, Republican administrations. And so I see it a lot. And I've always felt like I really need to be situationally aware, because the city does have a lot of crime. I had no idea there was like a murder every day. President Trump teaches us something new all the time. But Laura, the city looks reborn. It's a glittering example of a capital city, of a national, international power. And that's what it's supposed to look like. And that's what we Republicans are into: looking good, winning, making stuff happen. President Trump has totally remodeled the city in less than 2 weeks. I'm trying to figure out what Brandon Johnson is talking about. Of course he needs 5,000 new officers on the street there. Of course he needs that. And they need a new mayor. He shouldn't be doing that job because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Doesn't know what he's talking about at all. Let's take a look here. Brandon Johnson says that him resisting Trump deploying National Guard is like when slaves fought for freedom against the Confederacy. Are you freaking kidding me?
Could you imagine all of this pushback against Trump, knowing how he responds to that, could actually provoke him to follow through with this talk about sending in the National Guard when yesterday he seemed to waffle? Could this make things worse, all this pushback?
Could you imagine if, as a descendant of slaves, if my...
Okay, first of all, did you see his eyes darting back and forth again when that question came up? Now, I'll just roll it back a hair, but you can just watch again, pay close attention. He's freaking out inside, realizing that President Trump is coming. This is a direct question about Trump on the way. And he's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? His mind is freaking out.
Follow through with this talk about sending in the National Guard when yesterday he seemed to waffle. Could this make things worse, all this pushback?
Could you imagine if, as a descendant of slaves, if my ancestors would have had that same rationale? Let's not fight against the Confederacy. Let's just try to get along, and then maybe one day they'll give us our freedom. Nowhere in the history of America or the world where marginalized people have sat silent and idle, and they've been able to actually achieve justice and liberation. The fact that you have a unified front in Chicago, where we are rejecting the occupation by the military of our cities. That's actually fighting for our democracy. That's what's required in this moment. Leading in this moment takes a great deal of courage, but we stand on the shoulders of so many people that have come before us. We have seen these type of tyrannical acts before. One thing that we know for sure, when we fight back against tyranny, the people united always prevail.
All of this.
Well, if you watched my interview with Roger Stone, I asked him directly about President Trump's intervention. And during the interview, Roger Stone was very clear. He says that it has risen to the point of emergency where President Trump can enact an executive order to call in the National Guard to solve the crime problem in Chicago. And that is why Brandon Johnson and Governor Pritzker are standing unified, because really they don't want their game exposed. It's really about their pride. It's not about protecting the people. Here is Scott Jennings on CNN. What's he talking about?
And it's also because the military serves a role to protect Americans, not to be used against Americans.
Exactly. You keep saying used against Americans. What kind of Americans do you mean? The ones that are murdering us, carjacking us, raping us, terrorizing our cities? I mean, you're saying like he's creating an actual war against American citizens when what he's actually creating is a war against criminals. And by the way, illegal aliens who they are rounding up by the bucket load in Washington.
I want to let Ellie.
Of course, politics is going on here. I mean, you said that they should be asking for federal resources, but that would be an admission that they have lost control of their cities.
That's
so
not losing control. I mean, the way that of D.C. asked for federal resources too. She was trying to.
But Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, said, "I don't want more police," and he even said today, "We don't even want to put people in prison."
But this is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that Democrats should think about potentially asking for more resources. What I'll say here is that. I agree with
you, but they won't.
But it's also not handing over the entire city to the federal government. What happens is that the mayor and the local law enforcement should be in charge, and they should have the federal law enforcement supplement and provide training as needed. It shouldn't be that the National Guard and federal law enforcement should take over a city that they do not understand, that they do not know, that the community doesn't understand. That just leads to chaos.
When you heard, and it's also because the military.
Oh man, this is beautiful. Let's check in with Gino Caldwell, talking about families in Illinois.
It seems, I got to tell you, Dana, this is one of the most difficult conversations I think anybody can have, to put themselves on television and talk about the loss of their family members, especially when it seems to arrive on deaf ears when it comes to J.B. Pritzker, the governor, and Mayor Brandon Johnson. They don't have a problem with Donald Trump. They have a problem with the truth. The truth is there are many families throughout the state of Illinois and in Chicago that are hurting, people who are dying, families that are being slaughtered, their blood and treasure that is being laid out in the streets bare. We must make a change, and that's why I am hopeful and prayerful that with this new potential order from President Donald Trump that we will see change. The people of Chicago don't care about personalities. They don't care about parties. They want to see solutions, and that's why I encourage President Trump to stay on this wave and continue to talk about Chicago, continue to talk about offering federal support, which could be the National Guard, the ATF, the DEA, and the FBI. Things need to change, and they need to change now. I got to tell you, Dana.
Oh, and things are about to change. And I'm looking it up right now. I'm trying to find the exact law or statute. And let's hear what ChatGPT has to say.
Got it. Here's a straightforward narrative version you can use. The Constitution doesn't literally say National Guard, but it lays out the framework that makes it possible. Article 2, Section 2 makes the President the Commander-in-Chief, not just of the Army and Navy, but also of the state militias once they're called into federal service. Then, in Article 1, Section 8, Congress is given the power to provide for calling forth the militia to enforce the laws, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Congress turned those constitutional principles into law through the Insurrection Act of 1807. That act allows the president to step in with military forces, including the National Guard, to restore order when laws can't be enforced, when insurrections or riots threaten stability, or when citizens are being denied their constitutional rights and local authorities won't act. In practice, this means the Guard is normally under the control of state governors. But if law and order break down, the president can federalize the Guard and use it directly. That authority has been invoked several times in history, from Eisenhower sending troops to enforce school desegregation in the 1950s to the Guard's deployment during the Los Angeles riots in 1992. So the chain of authority is simple. The Constitution sets the foundation. Congress gave the president the legal mechanism through the Insurrection Act, and the president executes it, often through an executive order when law and order must be restored.
There you go. And law and order needs to be restored in Chicago because the politicians are not protecting and enforcing the law. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So the tale of two cities could not be clearer. In D.C., Trump federalized security and residents rejoice. In Chicago, Johnson clings to failed ideology while citizens die. This is not about politics anymore. It's about survival. When your emergency call goes unanswered, when gang members outnumber cops, when your mayor claims housing will stop bullets, you're living in a failed state. Chicago residents aren't asking for a political debate. They are begging for their lives. They see what Trump accomplished in D.C., and they want the same salvation. But their leaders would rather virtue signal than save lives. Johnson's comparing Trump's offer of help to slavery while his constituents are actually dying is beyond insulting. It's criminal negligence. So here's the question. Should Trump deploy the National Guard to Chicago, even without the mayor's permission, to save American lives? Tell us below. You can support Truth Media by grabbing some Next News gear from our merch shop, linked below, where you can trigger Brandon Johnson today.